The rescue. Commander Ilara Nash's fingers danced across the emergency console as warning klaxons blared throughout the ESS Pathfinder. The research vessel shuddered as another energy blast struck its shields. Through the viewport, she could see 3 sleek, predatory ships with crimson markings circling like sharks. Status report. She barked into her comm. Engine core destabilizing. Commander. Chief Engineer Patel's voice crackled back. We can't take another hit like that. Ilara slammed her fist against the bulkhead. The Pathfinder was supposed to be on a routine survey mission in the Epsilon Eridani system, well within the unofficial boundary of human space. These unknown attackers had appeared without warning, jamming their communications and opening fire without so much as a hail. All personnel to evacuation pods, she ordered, the ship's eye broadcasting her command throughout the vessel. Initiate protocol breadcrumb. Protocol breadcrumb. Continuous emergency beacon transmission that would lead Earth's forces directly to them. The attackers might destroy the Pathfinder, but they had just signed their own death warrant. No one attacked a human vessel and lived to boast about it. Earth didn't abandon its people. Ever. As the ship began breaking apart around her, Ilara sealed herself into the command pod. The last thing she saw before ejection was the Pathfinder's main reactor going critical, the brilliant flash momentarily overwhelming her pod's view screen filters. Then darkness. Captain Rithik Veroth of the Vander merchant vessel Star Wanderer leaned forward in his command chair, his 6-fingered hands adjusting the long-range scanners. His species elongated, amber eyes narrowed at the readings. Helmsman Tarn, adjust our course, 3 degrees port. I'm detecting debris. Is it worth investigating, Captain? Asked First Officer Mila, her iridescent scales shimmering with skepticism under the bridge lights. We're already behind schedule for the Procyon Trade Summit. Rithik's facial ridges furrowed. The Vander were known throughout the galaxy as shrewd traders, not rescuers or explorers. But something about this debris field troubled him. It appears to be the aftermath of a battle, he said quietly. And I'm detecting a faint energy signature consistent with a survival pod. Captain, Mila's voice dropped to a whisper, we're in the buffer zone. If this is from a Confederacy enforcement action, we shouldn't interfere. Bring us closer, Rithik ordered, ignoring her concern. The Star Wanderer's engines hummed as the sleek vessel approached the scattered debris. Life signs. The ship's medical officer, Dr. Selvig, peered at her console. One life form, faint but stable. Species, unknown. Rithik's crest raised in surprise. Unknown. How is that possible? The Galactic Confederacy has cataloged every spacefaring race in this sector. The pod design is unlike anything in our database, Tarn reported, but it appears to have advanced life support systems. Bring it aboard, Rithik decided. Prepare the medical bay. Mila stepped closer, her voice urgent. Captain, Confederacy regulations explicitly forbid contact with unidentified species without authorization. We should call for an official response team. That pod's systems are failing, Rithik countered. By the time a response team arrives, whoever is inside will be dead. I won't have that on my conscience. The Star Wanderer's tractor beam engaged, gently pulling the damaged escape pod into its main cargo bay. Up close, the pod looked even stranger, sleek, utilizing materials and technology Rithik had never seen before. Plasma burns marked one side, evidence of deliberate attack rather than accidental damage. When the cargo bay had repressurized, Rithik approached the pod alongside Dr. Selvig. The external release mechanism was unlike their own designs, but Selvig's scanner interfaced with it successfully. With a soft hiss, the pod opened. Inside lay a being Rithik had never seen before in his extensive travels. It had smooth skin without scales or fur, 2 arms, and 2 legs like many species, but with a distinct facial structure and coverings of fibrous material that appeared to be artificial. The being wore a fitted uniform with unfamiliar insignia. Is it alive? Rithik asked. Dr. Selvig scanned the unconscious form. Yes, but barely. Oxygen deprivation and internal injuries. The pod's life support was almost depleted. Take it. Them. To medical. Do what you can. As the medical team transferred the unconscious being to a stretcher, Security Chief Krull approached, his expression grim. "Captain, I've analyzed the pod's markings. You need to see this." He handed Rithik a datapad. The captain's blood ran cold as he read the information. The insignia matched partial records in their historical database, records most considered more myth than fact. "Is this accurate?" he whispered. Krull nodded solemnly. "It appears we've rescued a human." 3 cycles later, Rithik stood beside the medical bay bed where the human lay, now stabilized but still unconscious. Dr. Selvig was fascinated by their new patient. "Remarkable biology," she said, reviewing the scans. "Similarities to several known species, but with unique adaptations. According to the translation of their emergency protocols, this one is female, a commander named Ilara Nash." "Human," Rithik murmured. "I thought they were just stories told by deep space traders." "Oh, they're quite real," came a new voice from the doorway. Rithik turned to see Archivist Juven, the oldest member of his crew and a walking encyclopedia of galactic history. "You know of them?" Rithik asked. Joven approached slowly, his ancient eyes fixed on the unconscious human. 50 standard cycles ago, the Confederacy classified Earth and its solar system as a restricted zone. No contact permitted, no exceptions. Why? They don't look particularly dangerous. That was the general consensus when the first scout ships encountered them. Joven agreed. They were primitive, just beginning to explore their own system. But then came the Dravix incident. Rithik's crest flattened in recognition. "I've heard whispers of that name." The Dravix were an advanced race specializing in biological research. One of their vessels abducted several humans for study. Joven's voice grew quiet. 3 weeks later, every Dravix outpost within 10 light-years of Earth disappeared. No survivors. The Confederacy investigated, but found nothing except empty stations and destroyed ships. You're suggesting humans did that? How? You said they were primitive. That's what makes it so troubling. Either they weren't as primitive as believed, or they advanced at an unprecedented rate when threatened. Joven glanced nervously at Commander Nash. The Confederacy decided quarantine was the safest option. As if on cue, the human's eyes fluttered open, startlingly blue and immediately alert. She assessed her surroundings in seconds, then focused on Rithik. "Where am I?" she asked, her words automatically translated by the medical base systems. "You're aboard the Vander merchant vessel Star Wanderer," Rithik replied carefully. "I am Captain Rithik Veroth. We found your escape pod among debris." Ilara Nash's gaze swept the room, taking in the alien faces and technology. "My ship, the ESS Pathfinder. Destroyed, I'm afraid. Your pod was the only intact object we found." She closed her eyes briefly, composing herself before continuing. "How many survivors?" "Just you, Commander Nash." The human's jaw tightened. When she opened her eyes again, Rithik saw something that made his skin prickle. Not fear or grief, but cold, calculating resolve. "Thank you for saving me, Captain Veroth," she said evenly. "I need to contact Earth immediately." Joven stepped forward. "I'm afraid that's impossible. The Galactic Confederacy has strict protocols regarding human contact." Nash sat up despite Dr. Selvig's protests. "Protocols. Earth has had interstellar capabilities for decades. We've detected your ships observing our system. Official policy classifies humans as a restricted species," Rithik explained. "Contact is forbidden." "Based on what happened to the Dravix?" Nash asked, surprising them with her knowledge. Rithik exchanged glances with Joven. "You know about that." "We recovered one of their research vessels that drifted into our system," Nash said matter-of-factly. "We learned they had been abducting and experimenting on our people. So yes, we responded." Before Rithik could reply, The ship's alert system activated. Mila's voice came over the comm. "Captain, a Confederacy enforcement vessel has just entered the system and is demanding communication. They're scanning us." Rithik felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. How did they know? Nash held up her wrist, revealing a small device partially hidden by her uniform sleeve. "Emergency beacon. Standard protocol for all Earth military personnel. It's been transmitting since you brought me aboard." "You've been broadcasting our location?" Jovan asked, horrified. "Not your fault, Captain," Nash said to Rithik. "You couldn't have known. But you should prepare yourself. Earth doesn't abandon its people. They're already on their way." The Confederacy enforcement officer, a tall, gray-skinned Tarkasian named Commissioner Vexes, stood rigidly on the Star Wanderer's bridge. His 4 eyes blinked in perfect sequence as he regarded Rithik with obvious disdain. "Your actions constitute a Class 1 violation of Confederacy security protocols," Vex said coldly. "Unauthorized contact with a quarantined species carries severe penalties." "We were responding to a distress signal," Rithik argued. "The beam would have died without intervention." "That would have been preferable to the alternative," Vex replied. "My vessel will take custody of the human immediately. Your ship and crew will report to the nearest Confederacy outpost for processing." Rithik's crest raised in anger. "Processing? We saved a life." "You compromised galactic security," Vex countered. "The human has already transmitted a signal toward Earth. Do you understand what you've done? The last time humans believed their people were threatened, an entire species was eradicated. That's not what happened," came Nash's voice as she entered the bridge, escorted by Dr. Selvig. Despite her injuries, she stood tall and confident. "Human," Vex acknowledged with barely concealed revulsion. "You will be transferred to my vessel for containment and study." "I am Commander Ilara Nash of the Earth Space Service," she replied evenly. "I am not a specimen for study, and I will not be contained." Vex smiled without warmth. "You have no choice. Your primitive species has no standing in the Confederacy." "Commissioner," Rithik interrupted, "the human is under my medical care. By maritime salvage laws recognized by the Confederacy, I have responsibility for." "Your responsibility ended the moment you retrieved the pod," Vex snapped. "Security teams are already aboard your vessel. The human will be removed." True to his word, 6 armed Confederacy soldiers entered the bridge, weapons trained on Nash. "This is your last warning, Captain Veroth," Vex said. "Surrender the human or face charges of obstruction." Rithik looked at Nash, seeing not fear, but a cold certainty in her eyes. Something about her demeanor made him hesitate. Before he could decide, the ship's proximity alarms blared. Tarn whirled to face his console. "Multiple objects just appeared at the edge of our scanner range," he reported, voice shaking. They're not using standard drive signatures. They just appeared." "Impossible," Vex scoffed. "No known technology can." "Spatial displacement drives," Nash said, a faint smile appearing on her lips. "I told you Earth doesn't abandon its people." The main view screen activated, showing a formation of sleek vessels unlike anything Rithik had ever seen. They moved with impossible precision, surrounding the Confederacy ship. "Attention Confederacy vessel," came a transmission in perfect standard galactic. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are currently detaining a citizen of Earth. Release Commander Nash immediately, or we will consider this an act of war." Vex's gray skin paled further. "That's impossible. Earth doesn't have this technology. They can't have reached us so quickly." Nash raised an eyebrow. "There's a lot you don't know about us, Commissioner. That was rather the point of your quarantine, wasn't it? To keep us isolated while you studied us from afar." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Vex's face. "Captain Veroth," Nash said, turning to Rithik, "you saved my life at great personal risk. Earth remembers its friends." She faced Vex again, her voice hardening. "Just as it never forgets its enemies." Rithik watched the standoff, suddenly understanding why the Confederacy had been so afraid of humanity. It wasn't what they had done to the Draviks that was terrifying. It was what they were capable of doing to anyone who threatened their own. Earth responds. Admiral Helena Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Valiant, Earth's most advanced warship. The sleek command center hummed with controlled urgency as officers monitored the standoff. "Status of Commander Nash?" she asked, her eyes fixed on the Confederacy vessel and the smaller merchant ship displayed on the main view screen. "Life signs stable, Admiral," reported her tactical officer. "Our quantum entanglement comms just received a secure ping from her emergency beacon. She's conscious and mobile." Chen nodded. The moment Nash's emergency beacon had activated, Earth's response had been immediate and overwhelming. The displacement drives, technology the Confederacy clearly believed humanity didn't possess, had allowed the Earth Defense Fleet to arrive in hours rather than weeks. "Open a direct channel to the merchant vessel," Chen ordered. The communications officer worked quickly. "Channel open, Admiral." "Captain Verov," Chen began. "This is Admiral Chen of Earth. We understand you rescued Commander Nash from her escape pod. Earth acknowledges this debt and offers its protection." On the bridge of the Star Wanderer, the tension was thick enough to cut with a blade. Commissioner Vex stood frozen, his 4 eyes darting between the view screen showing Earth's warships and Commander Nash. "You've been monitoring us," Rithik said to Nash, realization dawning. "All these years." Nash nodded. "We detected your observation posts decades ago. Rather than confront them, we studied them, and through them, you. We learned your languages, your technology, your politics." "Impossible," Vex sputtered. "Human technology is primitive. You were barely achieving spaceflight when the quarantine was established." "The quarantine gave us time," Nash replied. "Time without interference. Time to develop on our own path." Rithik's communications console chimed. "Admiral Chen is requesting to speak with you directly, Captain," Tarn reported. Before Rithik could respond, Vex stepped forward. "I forbid this communication. Under Confederacy law." "Your laws don't apply to humans," Nash interrupted. "And they certainly don't apply to Captain Verov when dealing with a non-Confederacy species." She turned to Rithik. "The choice is yours, Captain." Rithik hesitated only briefly. "Accept the transmission, Harn." The view screen shifted to show a human female in a crisp dark uniform adorned with symbols of rank. Her expression was composed but resolute. "Captain Verov," Admiral Chen began. "This is Admiral Chen of Earth. We understand you rescued Commander Nash from her escape pod. Earth acknowledges this debt and offers its protection." Rithik's crest rose in surprise. "Protection? The Confederacy will undoubtedly hold you responsible for violating their quarantine protocols. Earth is prepared to offer you and your crew asylum and diplomatic protection." "This is an outrage," Vex exploded. "The Confederacy will never recognize such an arrangement." Chen's gaze shifted to the Commissioner. "The Confederacy has no choice. Our fleet is currently positioning itself throughout this sector. We have the coordinates of every Confederacy outpost within 50 light years, and the capability to reach them before warnings can be sent." Rithik watched in astonishment as the color drained from Vex's face. "You're bluffing," the Commissioner said weakly. "Earth doesn't bluff when it comes to protecting its people and allies," Chen replied. "Commissioner, you have 1 hour to contact your superiors and inform them of the situation. After that, we begin liberation operations at all outposts where humans are being detained." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Liberation operations?" Rithik finally asked, turning to Nash. "We've known for years that some humans have been captured by Confederacy vessels despite the quarantine," she explained. "Explorers, colonists from our outer settlements. We tracked them as best we could, but couldn't risk a confrontation until our technology reached sufficient levels." "And now?" Mila asked, speaking for the first time since the standoff began. Nash's eyes met Rithik's. Now we have a friend within the Confederacy, someone who helped one of our own without thought of reward or consequence. That changes everything. 2 hours later, Rithik found himself aboard the ESS Valiant in a spacious conference room, seated across from Admiral Chen. Nash sat beside him, now dressed in a fresh Earth uniform. Commissioner Vex represented the Confederacy, flanked by 2 silent advisors. The Confederacy High Council has agreed to negotiations, Vex announced stiffly. Under protest, I must add. Noted, Chen replied coolly. Earth's terms are simple. The quarantine ends immediately. All humans in Confederacy custody are released, and Captain Verov and his crew receive full diplomatic immunity. Vex's jaw tightened. The quarantine exists for a reason, Admiral. Humans have demonstrated extreme aggression when threatened. You mean the Draviks, Nash interjected, who were abducting and experimenting on our people. The response was disproportionate. Vex insisted. Let's be clear about what actually happened, Chen said, sliding a datapad across the table. These are records recovered from the Draviks vessel that drifted into our system. They detail experimental protocols performed on humans without anesthesia. They describe plans for biological weapons derived from human genetic material. Rithik felt sick as images of humans in various stages of dissection appeared on the room's display. The Draviks planned to use these weapons against rival species within the Confederacy, Chen continued. When we discovered this and traced their operations, we offered them a choice: surrender or face consequences. They chose poorly. The Confederacy was told humans destroyed the Draviks without provocation, Rithik said, understanding dawning. Certain factions within the Confederacy benefited from that narrative, Chen agreed. The same factions that have been mining resources from systems at the edge of our territory, thinking we wouldn't notice. Vex shifted uncomfortably. I was not privy to such operations. Perhaps not, Chen acknowledged. But the quarantine served purposes beyond protection. It allowed those factions to exploit regions they claimed were buffer zones while studying our technology whenever they could seize it. Like attacking my research vessel, Nash added. Rithik turned to her in surprise. The ships that attacked you were Confederacy vessels. Not officially, Chen answered before Nash could, but using Confederacy-sourced technology and operating with knowledge of our patrol schedules that could only come from Confederacy intelligence. This is speculation, Vex protested weakly. Is it? Chen activated another display showing 3 ships with distinctive crimson markings. These vessels attacked the ESS Pathfinder. They matched designs used by the Kratos Consortium, a private security firm that regularly contracts with Confederacy enforcement divisions. Vex had no response. Captain Verov, Chen said, turning to Rithik, you've been quiet. As the catalyst for this confrontation, your perspective matters. Rithik considered his words carefully. The Vander have been Confederacy members for generations. We've prospered under its governance and protection. But I've also seen Confederacy justice. If I had left Commander Nash to die, there would have been no investigation, no questions asked. He looked at Nash, remembering her determination, even when injured and surrounded by aliens. Humans speak of not abandoning their people. The Confederacy speaks of protocols and regulations. I know which I find more worthy of respect. Chen smiled slightly. Well said, Captain. Vex leaned forward. What exactly does Earth want? Full Confederacy membership? No, Chen replied. Earth proposes a new arrangement. We remain independent but establish formal diplomatic and trade relations with the Confederacy. The quarantine is lifted, the buffer zones are eliminated, and mutual defense treaties are negotiated. And the Vander? Rithik asked. As I said, Earth remembers its friends, Chen answered. We offer an exclusive trade agreement with your people. Vander vessels will receive Earth protection throughout this sector and access to technologies we've developed independently. Rithik's crest rose in surprise. Such an arrangement would elevate the Vander's standing enormously within the Confederacy hierarchy. The Council will never agree to such terms, Vex has insisted. They already have, Chen said, sliding another datapad toward him. While we've been talking, your superiors have been negotiating with our diplomatic corps. They've seen demonstrations of our displacement drive technology, our defensive capabilities, and our industrial capacity. She leaned forward. The Confederacy has realized what the Draviks learned too late. Humans make better friends than enemies. 1 week later, Rithik stood in the observation lounge of the Star Wanderer, watching as Earth ships and Confederacy vessels conducted joint exercises near the newly established diplomatic outpost. Nash stood beside him, now fully recovered from her injuries. Your people move quickly, Rithik observed. Nash smiled. When we need to. The Confederacy is still adjusting to the idea that we've been monitoring them for decades. As are my people, Rithik admitted. The Vander Council is ecstatic about our new status, though. Already, trade delegations are preparing to visit Earth. They'll receive a warm welcome, Nash assured him. Earth never forgets those who help its own. Rithik turned to face her fully. I've been offered command of the first permanent Vander embassy vessel to Earth. And will you accept? I've already done so, Rithik confirmed. It seems my impulsive decision to rescue a human has changed the course of galactic politics. Nash laughed. Just wait until you actually visit Earth. We have a saying. You ain't seen nothing yet. Rithik's translation implant struggled with the idiom, but he understood the sentiment. I look forward to it, Commander. Ilara, she corrected. After everything we've been through, I think we've earned first-name basis. Ilara, he agreed. And I am Rithik to my friends. On the view screen, a Confederacy cruiser and an Earth destroyer performed a synchronized maneuver, a symbolic display of the new cooperation. Behind them, the stars stretched endlessly, promising new horizons for species that had been kept apart by fear and manipulation. You know, Ilara said thoughtfully, there's an old Earth story about a stranger who helps someone in need, not knowing they've rescued royalty or someone of great importance, and is rewarded beyond measure. Is that what I did? Rithik asked. Rescued someone of great importance. Ilara smiled. You rescued a human. And now you have Earth's eternal friendship. I'd say that counts. As they watched the ships dance among the stars, Rithik reflected on the chain of events his single decision had triggered. One life saved, one act of compassion. And in return, his people gained powerful allies and a place in a new galactic order. The Confederacy had feared humans for what they might do if provoked. What they had failed to consider was what humans might do for those who showed them kindness. To new beginnings, Ilara said, raising a glass of Vander spirit in toast. Rithik raised his own glass, his amber eyes meeting her blue ones. To humanity, he replied. The most terrifying and wonderful discovery in the galaxy. Ilara laughed. You have no idea, my friend. You have no idea. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities neither could have imagined just days ago. A future forged not in fear and isolation, but in a single act of compassion that had changed everything. For in saving one human life, Rithik had gained not just a friend, but the protection of an entire world that lived by one unbreakable rule. Earth never abandons its own, or those who help them.